Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Welcome to another special edition, special episode of Real Problems, Real Solutions. Usually we make these episodes short, but we have these special ones, and today is definitely one of those. I am joined, alhamdulillah, by Sister Wad. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Alaikum assalam.
MashaAllah. Joining us from Saudi Arabia, right? KSA.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah. And from LA, California, brother, none other than the Mr. himself, Baba Ali. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Glad to be here, alhamdulillah.
How you doing, my brother?
You got cut off for a second.
How are you doing? How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Have energy, alhamdulillah. We're 10 p.m. here in Los Angeles, California, but alhamdulillah, I still have energy.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. So brothers and sisters, today we're going to be tackling a very important issue. I would say one of the, maybe not the most, but one of the most important issues when it comes to current issues and current problems in the Ummah, and that is the issue of marriage or the lack of marriage, because we are having issues. I've been working as a counselor for a long time, and I get people coming to me and say, look, man, find me someone to get married to. I need to get married. It's a problem. I need to find someone. And I say, why don't you ask your imam, or why don't you ask your family, or why don't you ask the people around you? And they say, yeah, I have, but no, nothing happened. So today we're going to tackle this issue. Let us start first and foremost to say that I think, Brother Ali, you're married, right?
Yes, I'm married. Alhamdulillah,
Okay.
almost 20 years.
Alhamdulillah. Myself also married, but Sister Wad is not. So that's a different perspective, alhamdulillah, because we're going to try to hear from sisters as well, to hear what do they look for in marriage. Why is it difficult, or maybe it's easy to get married, and so on and so forth. We're going to tackle these issues tonight, inshallah. But let's start first and foremost with the problem. Brother Ali, you are, mashallah, have been involved in this matchmaking, helping people getting married. You have a project called Half Our Deen. halfourdeen.com. It is a popular platform. All right, let me ask you this. Let's start with the problem. Usually I start with the problem, then we go to the solutions. Why is it difficult for Muslims to get married today? What are some of the issues that we're looking at?
There's a whole bunch of problems, subhanAllah. We used to be just, we're watching movies and people think that life is like what the movies are going to be like. Marriage life is going to be like that. But it's far more than that, because now we live in days of social media. People see what marriage life is going to be like in social media. It's like, I want that type of husband. I want that type of wife. Not realizing that's as real as a reality TV show, which means it's not real at all. Everything you see is the best parts of marriage. They don't show you the negative parts of marriage. So you're looking for something that doesn't exist. When I talk to people, all they know how to do is come up like with the checklist. Like it's eat or something. Oh, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And then what I tell them is, you know what you're going to get? A waiting list. You're going to sit on a waiting list like everybody else, and nothing's going to happen, because you have unrealistic expectations. And a lot of people are just like yourself. So that's one of the problems we have. So
high expectations, or unrealistic expectations even.
Very unrealistic.
Okay. Sister Wad, female's perspective, what do you think? What are some of the issues that you see or the problems in getting married?
Well, I think from the feminine perspective, I think one of the big issues in the society today is feminism. There's this idea that you don't need marriage. You can be independent, you don't need children, and it's just chasing after money and a lavish lifestyle, and that you don't need to depend on men, right? So that's one of the aspects. And also because the feminist movement did produce a lot of toxic masculinity. And so you have a lot of men who are becoming more and more aggressive. Many sisters, they grow up with fathers or brothers who are aggressive, who are egoistic, and then that shapes their perception of men. So they kind of paint all men with the same color, because they grew up in a society where most of the men, or the men that they look up to, are like that. And they kind of say, well, I don't want a husband like that, so I'm better off by myself. And the feminist movement is just catering to them, telling them, yeah, you don't need a husband. you know, go and be independent, go and get a career, go and focus on that, make that your priority instead of being a mother and getting married, right? So that's definitely one of the big problems, one of the big things that are stopping the youth from getting married. I know from my perspective, I've heard a lot of girls, a lot of the young girls in my age group, right? I'm 17. So a lot of the girls in my age group, many of them, they don't even want to think about marriage. I'm having a conversation, I'm saying, oh, I want to get married. They say, no, why do you want to get married? First go to school, go to university, get a career, and they just carry on listing. So that's definitely a cause.
Brother Ali, what do you think?
I think they're going to be waiting for a husband to come to them once their career and everything's going to be finished, and there's no husband waiting for them. It's a very rude awakening. What happens is a lot of young brothers are looking to get married right now. When you're a young brother, you're in your early 20s, and you're looking to get married, you're going to have a very tough time. You're still going through school. You haven't got your career together. You haven't got your financial stability there. Many young men are still lacking maturity. They're not ready to be like fathers, let alone husbands. So back then, it's like, what are you going to do? You have to wait for those men to mature and be ready, and maybe at least be financially stable so they can take care of themselves and take care of their wife and hopefully inshallah children. Sisters, on the other hand, when they're early 20s, they're at their peak. It's so easy for girls in their early 20s to get married. What happens is the script gets flipped. By the time the guys get in their mid 30s, late 30s, now they're much more desirable because they're much more mature. They're probably making much more money than they did when they were 20, 23 years old. They got their head on their head straight. So
hopefully,
they have a good idea of what life is going to be like. And a lot of people find them desirable. Or girls in their 30s want to marry a guy in their 30s. Girls in their 20s want to marry a guy who in his 30s. So they're like the special gem in the Muslim community. What the problem is now is those same sisters who waited from their 2021, let me just wait, I'm going to trade in all this for my career, and then they want to get married. They're like, okay, now I'm ready to get married, and there's not too many guys looking for those sisters. And the sisters are like, well, no, let me tell you why I'm so desirable. I got this piece of paper and this piece of paper. And the guy's like, so what? So this is my degree, and these are my accomplishments. And the guy's like, and the sister says, well, I think I'm intimidating you. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't intimidate me whatsoever. You know how funny that is for men? Let me tell you how funny it is. It's kind of like when a man goes to a woman and says, well, I just want to tell you how handsome I am and how well I take care of myself, and I have a pedicure and a manicure and this and that. And the girl's like, so what? Oh, you're not interested in me? Oh, the reason why you're not interested in me is because you're intimidated. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the girl's just looking at you and laughing. I'm intimidated by you, of course. You're looking at me like, how can I compare with this guy? And that's just as comical as the degree thing is. So we look through the lens of our own lens, trying to figure out what the opposite gender finds attractive. But the opposite gender is called the opposite gender for a reason. There's things that sisters find attractive in a husband that husbands don't find attractive in a sister. I mean, they're different. Similarly, there's things that women find attractive. I mean, vice versa. A man finds attractive in a wife that a wife may not find as valuable in a husband. So we have to figure out what the opposite gender sees things differently. We have to see how they think differently to help us find each other, inshallah. But unfortunately, we only see things through our lens, and that's what keeps us confused.
So are you saying there's a competition almost between girls in their 20s and girls in their 30s trying to marry the guy?
100%.
Okay. So who's got?
100%. I'm a guy who's been doing this. So for those who don't know, I've been running a website called Half Deen for about 11 years. I've helped, our website has helped 2,500 people find the other half. So this is what I do. All I do is interact with people looking to get married. Young people, old people, as young as 18 years old and as old as 70 years old. All different types of people, very progressive Muslims, very liberal Muslims, very conservative Muslims, from the Sufis to the Salafis, name it, they've been using the website. So I get a very good opportunity to talk with different people, and across the board, it's the same situation happening, and people are extremely frustrated, and they don't understand, how did I get caught in this mess? And as the sister mentioned just a few minutes ago, part of that situation is this whole feminism movement that sold is this bag of goods and said, trust us, just do this and do this and do this. And at the end of the road, there'll be all of these men waiting for you. And now you're realizing that was all a lie. It's not true. And I don't want to like be the bearer of bad news. That doesn't mean that you can't get married. You still can get married. But as long as you listen to the feminism and the liberalism, they are your worst enemies. They are preventing you because they're presenting ideas to you that's not making you someone that someone's going to desire for marriage. Let me give you an example. If you're looking to get married, a sister will come and say, "Assalamu alaikum, my name is so-and-so. Let me tell you about my degree in so-and-so. Let me tell you what my accomplishments are. Let me tell you my goals. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this." And the man's like, "Well, okay, that's really good. That's fantastic." And all he's thinking to himself is, "This sounds like a very, very busy businesswoman." You're not presenting yourself as a wife. You're presenting yourself as a very busy person, as a great business partner. And he may want to be your business partner, maybe start a business with you one day. But he's not interested for you to be the mother of his children because this person seems to be very, very busy. He says, "MashaAllah, I'm so happy you're successful." But that doesn't necessarily mean that I look at you as wife material. Similarly, there's brothers who may come and say, "Well, let me tell you about my muscles and my six-pack, and let me tell you about this and this and this." And they present all this stuff they do to beautify themselves. And the sister's like, "Well, do you even have a job? Do you have a career? Do you even work on anything other than your body? Do you work on your deen? Do you work on your mentality? Do you work on anything?" And the guy's like, "Well, I work on this." And this is like, "Well, I need a husband. I don't need just a bodybuilder." So it's just both of us are confused. And I think that's causing a lot of confusion, a lot of problems for both sides, inshallah.
So it's making it more harder for people to understand what to pursue. Like there's a lot of fog as to what is a husband or what kind of husband I should look for, how I should be as a wife, and what I should present in terms of, what I bring to the table, and so on, right? People are confused. Is that what it is?
That's what it is. And even when they do find somebody, they don't know how to measure that person. Like they don't know how to figure out, like I talk to people, I said, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for a brother with deen." "Okay, then how do you know he has deen?" I ask him questions like, "What? Do you pray?" He says, "Yes." "Do you fast?" He says, "Yes." "Do you eat halal meat?" He says, "Yes." He's a good Muslim. No, I know plenty of Muslims who do all those type of things and they may cheat people in business. You have people who pray Jummah and they open up their liquor store. You have people who do like pray during the month of Ramadan and they can still be deceiving people in business. That doesn't mean anything. By the way, I'm not discounting those things. I think those are the bare minimum that you should be doing as Muslims. Not that this is a very religious person. A person who prays, fasts, Hajj, all that zakat is the bare minimum, right? Bare minimum. You want to see what makes this guy exceptional. What makes this guy pious? What makes this guy conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that is by asking the right questions to figure out if this is the right person. A lot of people, when I speak to them, that is the main thing. They have no idea what to ask. Zero. They have zero idea what to ask.
No. Sister Wad, Brother Ali said that men are not really intimidated by women's achievements or education, papers, degrees, and so on. What do you see from the side of the sisters? Are men intimidated by women? Because a lot of men today, we do see that some women delay marriage because. Sorry, I was saying that Brother Ali was saying that men are not intimidated by women's achievements. What do you see? Are men intimidated by women's achievements? Is it important? What do you see from the sister side?
Well, actually, there's two sides to the story because men these days, unfortunately, some men are becoming more and more feminine. So I know here in the East, some men are actually looking for women who are working so that she can provide for him. And this is what's happening, is the change in the gender roles, right? There are some men who want a young woman who's not working because she can easily control him if she's working. She can easily, it is intimidating. We're not going to lie about that. But there are some men who are gaining a little bit more feminine energy than they should. And then they are wanting now a woman to work for them, right? So it's also
talking
not
about the East.
understanding.
You're talking about the East,
Here
not the West.
I don't know about the West. I don't know.
It's both. It's both. We have that here too. A lot of people, a lot of brothers are looking for sisters who will lead, who will pay for half the expenses. In fact, I will say it's starting to become the majority here in the West.
So
go ahead, sister. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I've seen that here and back in Sudan. a lot of men, the first thing that they think about when they see in a woman, did she graduate? Is she working? Does she make money? Because they don't want to take the responsibility. That's why I say, if you're a woman and you have that feminine energy and you want a man of the house, the most important thing that you have to look for in the man when you want to marry him, that he's masculine, right? You have to make sure that he's hardworking and that he's going to take the responsibilities. Because if he's not going to take the responsibilities, he's going to come and expect you to take the responsibilities. And I'm talking the responsibilities in terms of finance and things like that, right? He's going to expect you to pay. He's going to come and say, pay half the bills with me. And that's a liberal idea. For us, the men are the maintainers and the protectors of the woman. But now also you get the woman, right, who are becoming more and more masculine. Again, they want the certificate, they want a career, that's their priority. They don't want to be mothers anymore. And that's, again, the feminist movement is busy putting in there, because there's some women who work because they have to work, right? They don't have a choice. The economic system in the West is actually created in such a way where they want to drive both the man and the woman out into the workforce, right? So I give an excuse for those women who have to work because they have to, not because they want to, not because, oh, my career is my priority in life. But there are women who their career is their priority. Sometimes they will want a man just for pleasure, right? But not because they want to be taken care by the men. And men, some men become toxic because, you know, toxic masculinity, and other men become beta feminine, B-E-T-A, you know, alpha beta, beta feminine, basically like the carbon copy of a woman, right? They want a woman to be the man for them. So you have this complete gender role swap, right? Men are becoming women and women are becoming men. And it's the scary thing is it's increasing so much. We're seeing it happen, even though we could have said, no, you know, a few years ago, we could have said, no, this is not happening. I've seen it by myself, right? Men are becoming more and more feminine. Women are becoming more and more masculine. And that's a big problem. Why? Like,
but Sister Wat, some people are saying that, well, let us be, you know, we want to have our wives working. We want to have a family with 2 incomes. What's the problem with that, right? What's the issue with that? Some people are saying, let us be. We'll do what we want.
Well, we look at it from an Islamic perspective, in which it is better because there's so much fitna outside, right? We women, from our nature, right? The domestic atmosphere, the atmosphere of the home is what suits us best, emotionally and physically, right? Let me tell you something. I was watching a video a few days ago where the man, he was busy speaking about toxic masculinity. He said something that it's always in my head. It changed my perspective. He said toxic masculinity did not exist until women started to compete with men in the masculine sphere, in the workforce. So you see, the domestic atmosphere, the household, Allah gave women more emotions so we can handle the children, so we can handle the small things, right? When you go outside, it's a harsh atmosphere. So Allah gave men this ability to deal with that. When the women started to get into the workforce, they expect the men to treat them with the same leniency that their husbands treat them with, right? But the men, because they're working with each other, it's a harsh environment. The women, they're not used to this. So that's when they coined the term toxic masculinity, because they're saying this masculine energy, why is it so harsh? They're used to their men, their husbands treating them with leniency, because when the husband comes back home, he will treat the wife nicely. Well, hopefully, sometimes, you know, you get the abusive husbands or anything, but most of the time, the husband will treat the wife nicely, not like he treats his other teammates, right? So when the women come into the workforce, because it is against our nature, we find it hard to get comfortable, to kind of fit in, right? So it's better for the woman to stay at home, to bring up the children. And also it's important that the children grow up with their mothers. You see, when the women start to go to work, right? The husband also goes to work. Where are the children? First of all, you will delay having children, right? And second of all, when you get the children, you're gonna go and drop them off in a daycare center. And I say, there's a 7-year structure, right? 7 years in which you bring your children up. The first 7 years, and this is the Prophet ﷺ, this is from a hadith in the Prophet ﷺ, he says, 7 years, you play with the children. 7 years, you teach the children. And the last 7 years, which is by the time the child is, until the child turns 21, you advise the children. So the first 7 years, the child should be in a free environment, full of love, care, cherishment. You don't get that from a daycare center. In the daycare center, the child comes in, they tell the child, go inside, don't speak, don't make noise, stand in a line. That there shouldn't be that much restriction for the child, as well as receiving the mother's love, right? The mother's love is distinct from any type of other love. We don't understand this, but you're putting your child in the daycare center at 6 months and you're leaving the child, and after 7 years, it goes to school. And then you wonder why your child has trust issues, because you didn't get to bond with your children when they were young. Or here in the East, we don't really have daycare centers. They leave the child with the maid. So if your child ends up trusting the maid more than you, the child has a reason to do so, because it created a bond. There's a bond that you create with the child in the first 7 years, where if you do not create this bond, or if something goes wrong in the first 7 years, it could be detrimental to your relationship until the end, right? So it is important that, why do I say women should stay at home, at least to just take care of their children? Because I understand, like I said, the West is a harsh environment. Some women have to go out to work, right? I don't blame them. I honestly don't blame them, right? But I say you have to spend time with your children, raise them with your values, right? And one of the reasons, one of the motives behind the feminist movement actually was to get the children into school early, especially in the West. You see, the West has so much facade, right? Is to get the children into the school early, because in the school, they can indoctrinate them with whatever liberal ideas they want. So you have the children now coming home and saying, oh, I'm gay. Oh, I'm lesbian. Oh, I'm this. And they start to question the dean. Why? Because they're learning this from school. You didn't teach them the values from they were young, right? And they learn not to trust you, not to believe you, because they grew up with the school system. They grew up in the daycare. They were taught by the community. So they trust the community instead of trusting you. So in the fitrah of us human beings, the woman has to take care of the child. At least I say for the first 7 years, you have to spend a lot of time with the child, get to know the child, and make sure the child trusts you. If the child doesn't trust you, you're going to lose your child in the future, right? So if the couple, because like I said, the economic system in the West is designed to get both the mother and the father out. If the couple is in need of a double income, 2 incomes, so be it. There's nothing that we can do to stop that, right? You have to do it. But if there is no need for the wife to work, stay at home. It's for your own benefit. And anyway, if you're having somebody provide for you, why would you want to go out and tire yourself? I don't understand. Women be complaining about washing the dishes, and they want to go and work in a 6-figure company. They want to go and control a 6-figure company. What's easier, washing the dishes, cleaning the house, or going and working for hundreds of people, right? If you have somebody to provide for you, I say that's just the best lifestyle. It's easier for you, because Allah, that's the way Allah created us.
MashaAllah.
It's the nature, my mom said.
MashaAllah.
It's in the nature, it's in our fitrah.
Assalamu alaikum to Mama there, MashaAllah. MashaAllah. The voice of wisdom, MashaAllah.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Excellent. Excellent. Beautifully put. MashaAllah. Beautifully put. Let us now, before we switch gears a little bit and get into the actual problems before getting married, the premarital vetting and some of the challenges there. I have a question for Brother Ali. What are some of the ways that a Muslim can get married today in the 21st century? What are some of the avenues for people to get married? Are these enough? Do we have enough services? Is the family doing enough? Is the imam doing enough? Is the community doing enough? What do you see, my brother?
All right. So when people ask me, Baba Ali, I want to get married, what should I do? And it sounds really strange what I'm about to tell you, because this is coming from a guy who owns his own matchmaking website. Okay. The first thing I do is I tell you, go through your parents. Wait, don't you want me to join your site? No. go through your parents first. If your parents are more religious than cultural, your parents are the best option, because who knows you better than your parents? If your parents are more cultural than religious, or they're not really onto the deen, then they're not going to advise good people for you. And you exhaust that part, you go to the next, which is your friends. Maybe your friends know good people. If you have good companions, maybe they know other people. If you exhaust that and you can't find anyone good, then you move on and you say, okay, where should I go next? And now you have other options. Maybe, for example, you can volunteer for an organization, and maybe there's natural ways of meeting people within staying within the halal boundaries, of course, right? If you work in a school or something, as long as you're staying within the boundaries, you can learn about people's character and learn about different people. And like if you work for a charity organization, for example. And then after all of that, then I say, look, if you exhaust everything, then come and try a matrimonial website. I'm being very, very clear. Halal matrimonial website. There's a lot of quote unquote dating websites. There's like these Muzzmatch and Minder. These are all just copies of Tinder. Now, for those who are not familiar with Tinder and how it works, it's just basically they reduce you down to a picture, your first name and your age. And this is what they do. They just keep swiping. Literally, I was sitting on a plane one time and this guy was sitting next to me. This is what he was doing. I was like, how are you seeing? I was like, how's it? Like, I've never been on these websites. I got married in 2001. So I never, at my time, we didn't have apps. And I'm like, how is he physically seeing a picture and doing this? It looks like someone who's flipping through pages of a book. And within 2 seconds, a man is trying to decide if you're going to be the future person for him. This is the biggest decision in his life. If you're looking for a university to go through, you spend more time doing some research. If you're looking to get a good job, you'll do research and say, okay, what company is it? How much do they pay? What are the benefits? But if you want to choose the biggest decision in your life, I mean, this is a relationship that we know that if the righteous husband and wife will be together in the hereafter, that's how important it is. And you're going to decide like this? Are you kidding me? This is garbage. Like literally it's garbage. So what Muslims have done is took the worst concept from non-Muslims to borrow their technology that's designed for dating and apply it for Muslims. And what is a date? A date, let's be real here, is a 3-hour temporary relationship. This is where non-Muslims go out to a dinner and a movie and khalas, it is over, right? This is not designed for marriage-minded people. So taking that structure and implementing it for Muslims, and then we wonder why we're getting such poor quality Muslims? Of course, because look what it's attracting. So for non-Muslims, it's very interesting. 72% of the people who use Tinder are men, and only 28% are women. So now you wonder to yourself, why aren't more women using this website? Well, because it doesn't apply to them. It's like someone who was designed this with the male's perspective, because this is how men think. They reduce you down to what you look like, and that's it. They don't care anything more, especially if this is for dating. So women are not interested in using this platform. So when Muslims copy this over, well, what do you expect that to be? So for the non-Muslim website, 30% of the people using Tinder are already married. 30%. And I think I add another 14% on top of that, or quote unquote, in a relationship, whatever that means. It could be girlfriend, boyfriend, members, non-Muslims. So almost 12%. It's 42% of people are either married or in a relationship using this website. So now Muslims copy this, apply it to Muslims, and look what we get. Very, very similar numbers. 66% are males and only 33% are women. And we, as in our Muslim communities, our women need to get married. So obviously there's going to be a little bit higher percentage of non-Muslims, which they don't care if they get married or not. We care more, right? So, but the Muslims have no other option, but there are better options. And this is, again, it's going to sound strange from a guy who runs his own website. I would tell you, join every halal path possible. Now, most people you listen to and they're selling their website or telling this, they'll say, okay, just join my website. I got this, this, this. No, I'm saying join every halal path possible. Go to your friends, go to your parents, go through your local Muslim community. Do every halal path possible, because you don't know where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put your other half. A lot of Muslims I talk to, brother, I tried. So what'd you do? I went on a Muslim dating site. I couldn't find any good sister. It's like you go into a bar and saying, why are people drinking alcohol? What are you expecting? So when that's that side of it. Then we go to our local imam. The local imam, he is not a professional. I'm sorry. They are people who went to Medina, they went to Al-Azhar, they went to study fiqh, they went to study Arabic, they went to study Quran. They didn't go to matchmaking class. No, I don't know. There's any matchmaking class in Medina that they say, oh, this is what you do. Talk to him, talk to it. These are the questions you ask. They didn't go and dedicate a part of their life to go there and learn ilm, to come back and be playing matchmaker. You know why? Because if it doesn't work out, you're going to blame him. And that's a large amana. A lot of people always ask me, brother, do you know a good person? I know a lot of people, but do I want that amana on my neck? I don't, because I don't really know somebody until, like Omar said, Omar radiallahu anh said, you do three things with somebody. You do business with them, you live with them, you travel with them. He's just basically teaching us that you can't just look at someone's appearance or someone that you saw at the masjid seems to be a very good brother. You don't know how they are when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests them, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests them through tests and trials. So when I was looking to get married, I did things a little bit differently, and alhamdulillah, I found my other half. So I teach people how to do things a little bit differently, so you find your half as well, and you stay married. And that's the last thing I'll mention here. A lot of people look to get married, and alhamdulillah, they get married, but they don't stay married. But that's a whole different subject for a different day, inshallah.
All right. Sister Wad, what are some of the avenues to get married? So in the East, do people get on these matchmaking websites, or what do they do? They use their parents? Do the imams contribute there? The masjid? What do you see?
I think here, from what I have seen, first of all, many of the younger people mostly get married, or not mostly, but many of them get married from social media. They meet somebody on social media, they get to know each other. I know at least 3 friends of mine who got married on social media, right? Really? From social media. They met somebody on social media, they got to know them, they got married. But here, generally here is normally the parents. They get somebody through the parents. The parents find somebody. It's like an arranged marriage, right? Or, they go to parties here. They have these parties, these weddings, and normally a mother will see, oh, that's a nice girl, let me go see her family. And they go and they get, kind of vet the family, see how the family is, the lineage, the wealth, or the reputation, whatever it is. And then they say, oh, well, then let's bring our son and let's see what our son says. Then they go to the family, visit the family, begin to speak, get the couple to get to know each other. And that's how it goes, right? That's here in Saudi, where I'm living now, in Saudi Arabia. But most of the younger generations, from what I've seen, are getting married from social media. You can find somebody in your town, in your country, on social media, or sometimes they even travel. I know 2 couples who they had to travel to meet each other, and they got married. So it's becoming more and more about technology.
Do the families accept that, or are they okay with it? Do they ask the family first, or do they just get to know each other first and then ask the families? How does it work?
Mostly it's they get to know each other first, because I know a friend of mine, she first got to know the guy to see if this guy could be a potential or not. And then she went and she told her parents, well, there's this guy that I like. And so she got to know him. That's how they got to know each other. And then, he spoke to, I think it was a brother or a father, one of her walis. They spoke over video chat. And so then they kept on monitoring them. And then in the end, she traveled to meet him. No, actually, you know what? She got married during coronavirus, actually. So he came to her country and they did that. And then he had to go back because they had to do the visa, right? And so he's, I think, staying in Canada. I think Canada. But she's staying in Algeria. And she hasn't been able to travel to him because of the coronavirus restrictions and things like that. But they still keep contact, and they're married because he came here for that. But yeah, that's how it goes. Basically, they get to meet each other. Then they get a wali, because on social media you can't really know a person like you know them in real life, so you have to make sure this person is good. And also, when you bring in the wali, even in real life, when you meet somebody, say in uni or in college, when you meet somebody and you bring the wali into the equation, it kind of makes things serious. So if he's playing with you and you say, I'm gonna bring my wali, he's gonna run away, right? So how to know if he's serious about you? You bring the wali in the equation so that this guy is serious. If he's serious, he'll stay. If he's not serious, he'll run away. So yeah.
Okay, which takes me to the next point, which is vetting. Okay, so we've talked about the problems, some of the issues. It's not so easy to get married today. There are so many hindrances in the path of marriage. We talked about feminism. We talked about the fog or the lack of clarity with regards to roles. Everyone's expecting something different. So there's a lot of obstacles in the path of getting married. But let's say, alhamdulillah, we find some way to know each other. And I would obviously always, Brother Ali was talking about halal pathways to get married.
Yes.
And when we say halal, that is something very important, a very important word. Now, the concept of khalwa, for example, people just talking to each other on social media, whenever, whatever. This is something that causes more problems than solves the problems. If it's difficult to get married and we don't have avenues of getting married, we shouldn't be opening up the haram. But naturally, when you restrict the halal, the haram opens up. When you restrict the halal, when you make the halal harder, then the haram opens up. And in reality, that's why I was asking the question about the community, the imams, and a lot of people will tend to say, you know what, as Brother Ali said, I don't want the amana. This is a big responsibility. I'd rather abstain from helping people. I know many imams and many students of knowledge, usually brothers and sisters, when they see someone doing dawah, the first thing they'll write, Salaam alaikum, brother. Do you know anyone? I would like to get married, something like that. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I abstain because I don't want to deal with the problems. As Ali said also, that they start blaming you if things don't work. It's like your fault. Why did you, So it requires a specific knowledge, a specific approach, specific resources to be able to do it properly. It is a very big responsibility. So let's say that, alhamdulillah, things are done in halal, right? There's no khalwa, there's no just privacy, people doing the weird stuff. What should a man look for in a woman? What should a woman look for in a man? What kind of questions should they ask? And how can they know that the answers that they get are correct or not? Like basically, how do you decide whether this is going to be my husband or this is going to be my wife? Brother Ali.
All right. So back in 2001, I was looking to get married. I wasn't sure which website worked. So I joined all of them. So I put a very, very specific profile of exactly what I'm looking for with the hopes that just one sister would respond. Why? Because the last thing I want to do is speak to 20 sisters about marriage. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again, just one sister. And I was very, very specific. Guess what? 17 people responded. And I'm like, no, I don't want this 17 people. I just want the one sister, just one. So now I'm wondering, like, these people, there's no way all 17 sisters fit this criteria, what I'm looking for. There is no way. So some people are telling me what I want to hear. I'm convinced. I need to find out who's telling me the truth. I need to filter 70 people down to one. So I figured these websites are just good enough for me to meet these people. Now I got to take it in my own hands and see what I can do. So I came up with a very unique system of coming up with questions that don't have right or wrong answers, so I can figure out who's telling me the truth and who's telling me what I want to hear. So I'll give you guys an example of like a good question for those who are looking to get married and listening to this episode right now. So one of the questions I like is, like, you ask the question, does the world need more justice or more mercy? With everything that's happening in the world right now, and I'll ask our two guests right now, sister and brother, do you guys think the world needs more justice or more mercy? Can I get your answers, please? What do you guys think? Does the world need more justice or more mercy? Justice?
Justice.
Okay, so sister says justice. Brother, what do you say? Justice or mercy?
More mercy.
All right, so now that tells you that's a good question. How do you know it's a good question? When there's about half the people answer it one way and half answer the other way. And what did I just really ask both of them? I really asked them, are you more fair or are you more forgiving? Because when you choose justice, that means you think more fairly. And when you choose more mercy, that means you're thinking more forgiving. So which one's better? More fair or more forgiving? They're both good. In fact, of the 99 names of Allah, one is the most just and one's the most forgiving.
Yeah.
So these are the type of questions you have to come up with where they don't even know what you're asking and they don't know what the right answer is, because I may ask each of you, what do you want in the opposite gender, the person you want to marry? It may not always be, I want a husband who's just, or I want a husband who's forgiving. Everyone has their own preference. And that's also another way to figure out if it's a good question. When you ask 10 of your friends and half of them say, I want justice husband, and half of them say, I want a mercy husband, right? And that's just one example. So what I did is I came up with a series of questions. I sent it to all 17 sisters. One of them answered it correctly. That's the one I married 20 years ago. So my friend says, Ali, you've been married for so long. I've been trying the website. I've been going through my friends. I've been doing this. Can I borrow those questions? I said, sure. So he took my questions. He's been married for 14 years. He has 3 children. So now every single person who asks him to get married, he's like, here's Baba Ali's questions. Go use them. And I say questions is just one of many ways to filter out people that don't match with you. Because most people you interact with, they will tell you, I am mentally exhausted of looking to get married. I've been talking to this person, it didn't work out. Talking to this person, it didn't work out. Talk to this person, and you repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse. It's like washing your hair. Repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse. People they don't want to do this. That's why I didn't want to do it from day one. In 2001, I didn't want to talk to 17 people. Today, you don't talk to 17. You may talk to 20, 30 people until you find your other half. And for a lot of sisters, you may end up talking to this brother, it doesn't work out. Talk to this person, doesn't work out. Doesn't talk, and you can't afford wasting 3 months of your life here, 6 months of your life here, 7 months of your life here, 2 months of your life here, and suddenly, with the blink of an eye, you're 33. And you start looking at 26. That's a lot of time that you give up. That is the most expensive currency that you are giving up right now. It's not money, it's time. So what I said, I need to come up with a system that saves time, that filters. My back in the day was just questions, okay? But since that time till now, I've been able to think a lot. So there's ways you can filter people. Like, for example, personality types. There's personalities that are more like Omar, and there's personality types that are more like Abu Bakr. Which one's better? There are 2 people that were told you're enter Jannah of the 10 people enter Jannah. So they're both amazing. Again, they're very different. So you have to understand that if you get a personality like this, there are some weaknesses and some strengths that come with it. If you get a personality like this, there's some weaknesses and strengths. Some people are very attracted to a certain personality type, but they can't tolerate them. This is why you'll go end up marrying somebody, and then you're like, I can't stand this person. And so wait a second. A year ago, you said, this is the best person in the whole wide world. I don't want anyone else. There's 1.5 billion Muslims, and I choose him or her. And now 1 year later, I cannot stand this person. I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life. This is the worst human being in the world. What happened? You were attracted to somebody that you can tolerate. And this is by not vetting and asking the right questions. We already know what we're attracted to. Do you know what you can tolerate? Some of us don't know until we get divorced. And then when you ask a divorced person, you know what they tell you? Now I know what to ask. Now I know what questions to ask. Why do we have to learn the hard way? So what I try to do is I try to do it the easy way. And that's what my website does. We just filter. It's like, you just filtering. So you talk to 2 people instead of 200 people, and you don't do this. So that's just crazy. I don't know how people are going to do that kind of stuff. So questions, inshallah. So I don't know how much time we have today, but I give you guys one example question. I'll give you 1 or 2 more questions, inshallah, but we can keep going later, depending on how much time we have. But like, one of the questions you can ask is like, when you are at your worst, what does your worst look like? When you get mad, how do you communicate? Would you marry someone like yourself? Or here's a good question, and a tough one too. Give me one reason why I shouldn't marry you. See, these are answers they have no idea that you're going to ask. You're catching them completely off guard. And they're like, they won't know. Either they can't make up what's a good answer for that. What's a good answer for, give you a reason why I shouldn't marry you. There's no good answers. There's no right answers. And that's how you know a question is good. What is the hardest thing for you to follow in Islam and why? And since we've been talking about feminism, that's a good question as well. What part of the feminism movement do you disagree with? So now when you're talking to a sister, because there's nothing wrong with sisters having equal pay or things of that nature, but there's other parts of feminism movement that conflicts with Islam. So you want to see what part of the feminism movement they understand correctly and what part is like conflicts with Islam that they are very passionate about, because that may conflict with your understanding. And that's the important thing for you guys to discuss, inshallah. There's many, many ways to that, but those are just some examples.
Sister Wad, from a feminine perspective, what is important for a woman? What kind of question would a woman want to ask? What is something that attracts a woman or that a woman can put up with, how would you go about as a woman to vet your future husband?
For me, I always think observation to, because you know, sometimes you can get to know somebody simply by the things they do subconsciously. Keep an eye open, or watch what this person does in a subconscious manner. You have to be very observant, right? Because you can ask a question, right, and he can easily lie, right? So you have to, what Baba Adi said was absolutely, it was some new things from my perspective, is that ask a question that doesn't have a wrong or right answer, because it's like he can't say the wrong answer, he can't lie in that situation, right? He may, but it's harder to lie. But I think observation is very important, and I think in a way that you can do it is get to know his family, right? And this was actually advice that I received from a friend of mine. She said, go to family dinners, go on outings with his family, right? And when he's not focused, right, you observe the way he treats his family and the people around him, the way he treats the elderly, the way he treats the children. That will tell you a lot about his personality. The way he treats his woman. Does he have ghira for his woman? Or does he help the family? You know, for example, many cultures spoil the boys, right? You don't want a spoiled guy who's just gonna sit down on the couch and just, you want somebody who's going to be knowledgeable, who's going to be helpful, who's not going to have this misogynistic mindset, because there's many men who grow up in a culture where they're taught a woman is a slave, right? So if you see the way he treats his woman, it will give you an idea, right, of what type of a man he is and how he will treat you. It's not going to give you the exact idea. It will give you a slight idea of how he is. I'll also say get a wali to vet his friends, because also the friends tells a lot about a person. If he has bad friends, he's a bad guy. He's under bad influence, right? If he has good friends, then they're a good influence on him. So I say, because you can't go and be friends with guys. So get a guy who's gonna go, a brother or anybody that's young, a cousin or somebody that's gonna go and be friends with his friends, so that he can know what type of friends he has, right? What type of characteristics, like I mentioned before, you want to look for a masculine man, especially if you're a good Muslimah who abides by the fitrah, right? You need to know, even if you're going to work, even if your husband's not financially stable, the household needs two incomes, right? A man who is willing to take the main responsibilities. And once again, you need to observe this person's, for example, you can get a guy who's a red pillar, right? Who follows the extreme misogynistic views, right? Or absolutely, you see, I think there's a movement called Men Go Their Own Way, where it's exactly the radical feminist movement, just the male's version of that, right? So you need to ask them, what is your point of view? Especially if they're living in the West. I don't think you'll find that commonly here, but if you're living in the West, you ask them, what is your point of view on feminism? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? What is your point of view on red pill? What is your point of view on different movements that are happening, especially if you're living in the West, because it's kind of like infiltrated into the system, into the society. So it's going to affect everybody, right? So you ask your opinion. I think asking opinions, even when it comes to deen related matters, just generally ask, just get to understand what this person, what's this person's understanding. Why do I say it's important that you get a man who understands the deen? I'm not saying you have to marry an imam or a sheikh, but just a person who understands the deen enough to know your rights and his rights. And because, for example, like Baba Ali said, the bare minimum is to pray, is to fast, is to go to Hajj. The 5 pillars, that's the bare minimum. You have to have understanding of the deen in order that you implement it, and you're going to raise children in Islam. So you have to be able to at least explain to them some of the basics of Islam, right? As well as the rights. So you can fulfill your rights. On your part, you have to do the study. And on his part, he has to be knowledgeable. How are you going to, I think a very good way to ask somebody when it comes to these type of things is to act like you have a query, like In this way, you will get an honest answer. So what is your opinion on this certain thing that is happening on Islam? Or there's something, say you're talking to him and say, oh, I don't understand this about Islam. Can you explain it to me? Can you explain what you have been taught? Can you explain your opinion? In that way, you will get a very honest opinion, right? Because he's not going to be trying to prove your opinion wrong because you don't know, right? So he's going to be focused on trying to get you to understand. In that way, you can understand his perspective. And this goes for many other things, not only deen related. I think asking for a person's opinions just to get to know him is very, very important. I think that in terms of questioning, that is very important.
Brother Ali, is there such a thing as too much vetting? That's the first question. And second question, is the website or the platform that these different projects offer, such as yours, is it enough? Sister Watt is talking of a more comprehensive, getting to know someone, getting to observe their behavior, visiting the family. Is that something that can happen through the website? Is the website enough? And is there such of a thing of too much vetting? You know, some people just don't stop. They keep going and too many questions and too much. What do you think?
So if you ask my wife, she'll say yes, there's too much vetting, because she'll use me as an example, because I asked her 1,000 questions. She said, I have no idea how he came up with these questions. And my questions are like, and by the way, you have no idea what I'm asking. I'll ask, what is your favorite animal? And describe 3 adjectives of that animal. It's like, what does that have to do with marriage? I said, there's a psychological question that actually answers something else. And then I ask a different question. She's like, I just give up. So I just tell him whatever I think. And based on the questions, she knocked it off the park. I was like, this is the sister. So is there too much vetting? I think some people overanalyze, right? When you overanalyze and you're just a skeptic and you're never going to get married, even if you ask 1,000 questions. But there is a certain number of questions you need to ask. I rather ask more questions than less questions. I find a lot of people get prematurely married and they realize they're not compatible. They don't ask the right questions. You know, like the sister was just mentioning right now, like one of the ways you filter, I said one was the way I told you about questions I do. Another one that she just is a very good advice, same advice you give other people, is bring the wali into the equation and see how fast that person runs away. If the person's serious, they'll hold their ground. If the person's play games with you, they'll run away, right? The second thing I would do is for brothers specifically, you know, if you play sports yourself, brothers are a very certain way when they're in the masjid, when they're around other practicing people, and et cetera, et cetera. As soon as you give a football in their hand, you give a basketball in their hand and say, go, a completely different brother comes out. Now you see his personality come out. Is he competitive? Is he cheating? Is he use curse words easily? Is he selfish? You can play football with somebody and he doesn't even pass the ball at all. You can play basketball with somebody and the guy's just a show off. That is an extension of one person. And you can see a lot about person and they don't realize that their personality is coming out. Because just like body language, if you're trying to fake it and try to pretend you're something you're not, your other body parts are talking constantly. You can only hold back for a certain amount of time. And when men get competitive, you can see a lot about them. You can see, is he a person who's extremely competitive? Is he extremely passive? When he wins, how does he act? When he loses, how does he act? It shows a lot about a person that you'll see much more than praying next to somebody. So going back to the site itself, as you're asking, yes, there's ways you can do it. Some websites, no, they're garbage. As I said, if you're using a dating website, you're wasting your time. And it's not just you're wasting your time and money, but there may be no barakah in that. You want to make sure you're doing it when you meet the person, you do everything from A to Z Islamically. Once you start bending the rules and you think, okay, the ends justify the means, it doesn't. Who said that? It's not an Islamic term. You want to do from day one, do things correctly. And that means when you're speaking to someone for marriage, you keep each other in check. Ideally, you go from one family to another. So even when you use a website, even on our website, we have like a wali button. So you can check mark and say, this is a wali account. So you know you're speaking to a wali or a guardian. Ideally, that should be the best way to do it, right? And you're speaking to 2 families. And these are just mediums to do with each other, to talk to each other. So one of the things we do is we ask 158 questions for people to answer. Now, this is the same situation you had before. When you send a wali to come, a lot of people will run the other way. As soon as you say, what? Yeah, and this is what I need you to do when you join our website. Imagine a man, you tell him to do this, by the way. I want you to imagine you're speaking to a brother for marriage, and this is what you ask him. I'm going to give you 10 things. I need you to prioritize what's the most important to the least important. That's number one. Number two, I need you to take a personality test, an attraction test, and a tolerance test. Then I need you to look over 100 interests and choose which one's the most important. I need you to come up with 5 deal breaker questions, and I need you to answer 158 marriage-related questions. If he still hasn't run away, exactly, it's a lot. But I just checked the last 30 days, 69% of all of our people who signed up, including men, have done it. And some of them, obviously, it's the last 30 days. So if he's just joined yesterday or 2 days ago, they haven't got a chance to finish everything. But it tells you that the person's more committed and more serious than a person who uploads a picture and puts their first name and their age. Just like when they're more serious, if you come to you and they want to speak to your wali, rather than just trying to talk to you and slide into your DMs and stuff like that. So you have to look at the action and how he approaches you for marriage, because that shows you what kind of person he is. Don't be discouraged when you say, oh, I've only spoken to 2 or 3 people. This ummah is not majority practicing great Muslims. Unfortunately, we live in a time when you find those gems are few, and everybody wants those gems. And this is the last piece of advice I'm giving you before I pass on the microphone here. When I ask people what they're looking for, they have a checklist and checklist and checklist and checklist and checklist. What I want to do is give the checklist right back to them and ask them, if this ideal match that you're looking for, would they be pious? Would they be religious? They say, of course. Do you think they're making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an amazing husband or wife? You're like, yes. You need to become that husband or wife. If Allah is righteous and if Allah is just, He's going to answer their dua with a good person as well. And until you become that person, don't expect that person to come into your life. Allah will not change the condition of the people until they change within themselves.
MashaAllah. Excellent. Excellent. Sister Wad.
It's a harsh reality that sometimes people don't realize.
That's right. Sister Wad, do you think that asking your future spouse questions related to Islamic knowledge, is that something that people prioritize, or is it just about personality and just matching and compatibility? Where does Islam come in all of that? And I'm not talking about just praying or fasting, as we said, that these are just basics. Do people vet each other based on their understanding and knowledge of Islam? Is that important? As if you remember the Prophet ﷺ, who told us to marry a woman for, these 4 reasons, right? And one of them, or the main one, was their deen, their Islam. So what do you think? Should a woman vet a man on his Islamic knowledge?
You were lagging. I couldn't hear you. You were lagging.
You couldn't hear me at all. SubhanAllah.
He was
Can you hear me
asking
now?
about the 4 things. Yes. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah.
My question was about the importance of vetting your future husband, inshallah, on issues of Islam, knowledge of Islam. Him being the imam of the house and the qawwam and the leader, is it important for someone to have good knowledge of Islam, or what's more important, compatibility for a woman? Where does the deen stand?
Well, I think the both personality and the deen, they kind of complement each other. You can't have a bad personality and a good understanding of Islam. In ways, sometimes we self-improve ourselves. Does that make sense? We kind of improve ourselves on the times that we, if we get angry too easily, we try to not get angry too easily, because that's following the sunnah, right? Anger is very dangerous, right? So in ways, when you have a good understanding of Islam, automatically you change yourself for the better. That comes together. You can't have a bad personality and a good understanding of Islam, and you cannot have a bad understanding of Islam, right? And have this excellent character. They kind of complement each other. So I think when you're vetting, automatically you will see it, because, for example, a part of being a Muslim is to have akhlaq. If you have no akhlaq, you have no iman, right? And akhlaq is a part, mannerism is a part of your personality, right? Is a part of, in a ways, it could be affected by your upbringing, which is another reason why I say get to know the family. Because if the family brought the child up in a specific way, in a specific environment, unless it's reverts, there's a lot of reverts that come from bad families and they enter into Islam. and alhamdulillah, Allah has guided them. Sometimes you'll find a person who grew up in a bad environment, but they turn out to be good. And that's not always the case. I just say, for the benefit of the doubt, go and get to know the family, how this guy grew up, right? And another thing, you will know a person's personality by the friends. If he has bad friends that go to the parties and they use vulgar language and all of that, he will automatically come like them, right? But as for Islam, just asking questions, deen-related matters, the more that you, and this is for both the woman and both the men, the more that you understand Islam, the more your personality will correspond with Islam, will be in the line of Islam. And so I think it's just a matter of finding somebody that understands Islam, not just practices it, because especially born Muslims, many of us, we grow up, we are taught to pray, to fast. We're taught that we take it as a chore, as a duty, right? Not something because we actually, that's why many of us suffer with concentration in Salah, because we don't really understand what Salah is. So you can find somebody who prays, goes to the masjid, but just because they see it as a duty, not because they actually want to do it, or because they do it because they're convinced, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you want a role model for your children, and also because women, when you are under the protection of the Qawwam, when the man becomes the imam of the house. He has to have adequate knowledge, sufficient knowledge in order to lead the house. When he sees the woman doing something that is wrong, he needs to guide her. The same, the woman can do the same for the man, but the responsibility upon the man, when he sees his children doing something wrong, his wife doing something wrong, he has to have adequate knowledge in order to guide them. He is the guide of the house. He is the shepherd that leads the people, that leads the family, right? He's bringing up he's taking care and protecting the people who will be the future of the ummah. If it's done in the wrong way, then we have an ummah that has corrupt children who are not brought up in a household where the Qawwam was good, right? So it is the responsibilities for both the mother and the father, but I think on the father, since he is the leader of the house, right? He has to have, and even if he's not, like I said, he doesn't have to be an imam or sheikh, but he should have at least somebody of wisdom and of knowledge that he could refer to when some religious matters happen, right? I feel like even from a female perspective, she will be more happy or more comfortable having the leader of the house as somebody who she can consult to when she's having a query or something like that. So I do think it's important that Islamically, and like I said, understanding of the deen automatically comes with akhlaq and adab and things like that.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Brother Ali, straight up question. How do you keep things halal? Obviously, for me as a counselor, I get a lot of complaints from brothers and sisters saying that they join some of these, as you call it, dating sites, even some of the Muslim so-called matchmaking sites, and things are not kept halal. And a lot of it has to do with people being in an intimate space where they just talk to each other. There is no wali in many of these cases, which is impermissible really, to be just you and her talking and chatting. People start exchanging discussions that become inappropriate. The third person, obviously, even in cyberspace, is shaitan. Shaitan is quite technologically advanced. People think that he's not. He's very technologically advanced. So how do you keep things halal in your website? How do you get things to be in a way that we can say it's Sharia compliant and we can say that there's the barakah of Allah in this marriage?
It's an excellent question. When I first started launching our website, at that time, there were things like on Facebook, if you remember, and you're old as me, you remember people used to poke each other. They don't do that anymore.
Poking.
And then on dating websites, I think Muslims as well, you can wink at each other. They know Muslim be copying non-Muslim. All these things of showing interest to each other. Even that's how you do it. And then there was chat rooms, if you remember, and on these websites, people go and chat and do these type of things. And obviously, there's no one moderating this. So it can quickly get out of control, as you just mentioned. So when we first launched, we did a couple of things that was very unattractive from a business perspective, right? From a business perspective, what do you want to do? if you're a non-Muslim or even a Muslim, unfortunately, these days, they use sisters' pictures to pull in the men. They know men are visually simulated, right? So if you show pictures of beautiful girls, they're going to sign up, right? And women are verbal simulated. So if you just sweet talk her, you can get her to sign up. Just write the right words, write the right success stories, make them go, oh, that could be me one day. And that's what they're doing, and that's what they do. That's, by the way, how men get to women, right? That's why the wali is so important, because no guy is going to sweet talk me. So my daughters, when I get married, you can sweet talk all you want. It doesn't work with me, right? I don't get verbally stimulated. It's visual. So anyways, going back to the subject is like, what do we do? So first thing we did is we said, we're going to filter out all these people who are not looking to get married by not showing anybody that's looking on the website. So you can't see anybody on the website until you actually pay to join the website. Now, this is very unattractive, because imagine going to a restaurant and you say, okay, what kind of food do you have here? We're not going to tell you. Well, can I see the menu? No. You need to pay before you walk in. What are most people going to do? See you later. And they're gone. And wait. But the serious people say, okay, this is really good food? Yes. Is it halal? Yes. Okay, here. You have to build this trust with people to actually be able to enter. So a lot of people will not join our website. Once they enter, you can only see the opposite gender. Every other website lets you see the same gender. And of course, can you imagine this? How much backbiting is happening when there's two sisters see each other? I saw you on so-and-so, blah, 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 and it's all you need, right? You don't need that. The only people that should know you're looking to get married are people looking to get married. And again, this is a platform. This is a medium. How you use that medium is up to you. It's kind of like if I invented Gmail or I invented Yahoo Mail. It's a platform. It's a tool. There are some people who are going to use Gmail to communicate with each other in a good way. Some people do it in an evil way. Some people spam you. Hey, buy my product. But all these people just drive you crazy with how they use it. But it is a tool, and how you use this tool, just like how you use a knife. You can use a knife to cut fruit. You can use a knife to stab somebody. So it's like how you use the tool makes the action behind it will make it halal or haram, right? A lot of people will take any tool, anything, and they can use it in bad ways. So what we did is we try to make this as unattractive as we can to people who use these tools in a very negative way. For example, here, you can't even see the sisters on the website until actually join. Yes. Like Muzmatch requires a picture from the person. We don't. There's a lot of people who are picture shy, so we allow you to not have your picture. We have privacy photos. The only people that are allowed to see those pictures are the people who give permission to see it, and you can remove permission. We don't do it. It's up to the user themselves to make the pictures private, 100% in their hands. So we don't even make that amana on our hands. The next thing is communication. So how you communicate, we don't have any chat rooms. And we don't have there's this instant gratification when you send a text message, they respond back, text message, and go back and forth. But remember the old school days when someone sent you an email and then you got the response, and then you sit down, thought about it, and then you send the email back. It's like two families communicating with each other, like through pigeons, right? So once you're doing things quickly, it's that comfort zone, and everyone puts their guards down. We have the old school way. There's no text messages here. This is what we try to do. We try to keep you on the website so you don't go off and do WhatsApp, get too comfortable, getting on video chatting and all this other stuff that people are doing. So we have the Wali accounts. We want people, and we encourage people to go through your families. Let two families open each account and communicate this way. But at the very end, unfortunately, this ummah and the people that you interact with, not just on Half-Run, everywhere around the world, no matter where you go, there's good and bad within this ummah. So unfortunately, this is a reflection of our ummah. And the challenge is it's a test of patience. You may speak to a lot of people until you find that one person that matches with you. And this is very specific to sisters, specifically to sisters. You guys have an even more challenging situation than brothers do. Sisters, because of your nature of wanting more things that you want in a husband, your checklist is longer than a brother's checklist. And when you go down that checklist, you realize out of 10,000 men, there's a very small percentage of them that fit all those numbers. And the question is, everyone is chasing those same small group of brothers. And that makes it much more difficult. Now, when you ask a man, what are you looking for? A lot of brothers will say, oh, I'm looking for this, 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 and this, like maybe 4 or 5 things. When I ask a sister, it can be up to 19 things they're looking for. There are specific things that sisters are looking for. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying your preference is different. So like example, I talked to a sister, and the vast majority of sisters, vast majority, have a minimum height level that they want a minimum of their height or taller. And when you ask brothers, they don't say, okay, I need someone who's 5'3", between 5'3", they don't ask those questions. Sisters have a certain amount of money the brother has to make. Some sisters ask a certain degree he must have. I've never spoken to a brother that says, I need a sister with a PhD, otherwise it's a no way. And you don't get those requirements, right? And on top of that, sisters want some brothers who are physically attractive, they want this, they want this. So the list is very long. And unfortunately, there's a lot of brothers who have some things that's completely out of their hands. They could be an amazing brother, but he happens to have dark skin. He could be an amazing brother, but he happens to be 5'10" or 5'7". And he has Islam, he has everything else, and the sisters will say no. And this is unfortunate. This is the world we live in, and I can't change these people. I can't change the sisters, I can't change the brothers. All I can do is make the medium, this tool, this half-deen, the best I can so people can find. And even then, people still try to use it in a wrong way. So we have to do, we have a staff of people trying to constantly build like a flagging system, blocking system. And every time you see someone doing something inappropriate or inappropriate picture, obviously when you have 2,000 people on your website, you can't sit there and watch every single person. It's like a referee watching a soccer match. There's only 2 or 3 referees. You can't watch every player elbowing each other. So what you need is you need each other. So when they flag each other, when they block each other, when they notify us, we can quickly investigate and remove those people from our website. We have a zero tolerance policy for these type of people, but there is no full proof. I wish there was, but there isn't. Any website that claims it, there's a huge amount of, because you're saying every single situation will be 100% proof, and that's very difficult because you can't control Muslims. So that's our thing, inshallah.
Great. Sister Wad, 5 things that you would be looking, or the most important 5 things for you that you would care about looking into your husband. So I know Brother Ali said you might have a long list. I just need 5 things from you. Try to think about it. If you're looking to find a husband, what would be the main 5 things that you'll be looking for?
Okay, so first of all, very first thing, a person who is God-fearing and God-conscious, has taqwa, fears Allah. Why do I say this? Because you can find somebody who's a Muslim, claims to be a Muslim, but because they don't fear Allah, they fear the people. And this is also in the upbringing, where our parents teach us, alhamdulillah, not my parents, but some parents teach their children, what will the people say? Don't do this. What will the people say? Instead of what Allah will say. So for me, what is important is that a person fears Allah above everything else. The person has a lot of taqwa for Allah, because this will enable him not only to be just to me, but just to other people as well.
Okay, let me interject really fast though. That's very abstract though. How do you measure that?
Opinions, asking if certain things were to happen. For example, I'll just bring in an example, say something's happening. What's your opinion on this? Or if this were to happen, what would you do? Or if something is going on, inshallah, maybe Allah will bring something to happen just so I could ask him, oh, what would you do if you were in this situation, right? And to see how he deals with other people. Like I said, I will, inshallah, find a wali, somebody who can go and test this person, see how this person deals with their friends. Like I said, people will do things subconsciously. There's some things that they cannot control. When they're not focused, you try and you observe them in that moment. Subconsciously, they will do things, right? I think also see the type of personality that he has, right? That tells a lot. If he's arrogant, that's the first thing. The first thing to know if a person does not fear Allah is a person who's arrogant, right? And you can tell just by speaking to this person, a person who's always self-praising, a person who, greedy. Yep, you know what? I have something I need to say, something very important for both spouses, right? Okay. There is one characteristic in each spouse, as per our fitrah, one characteristic that you'll find in each spouse. If you find it, you have to run away. You go far away from this person. And that is for a man if he's greedy. If you find a greedy man, you run the other direction. Girl, don't even walk on the same street as him, right? Because remember, he is your protector and your maintainer. If you find a greedy maintainer, he's taking all the good things for himself, right? And greediness is a big, red flag, or a big, representation of arrogance. right? If you're greedy, you're most probably arrogant as well. And for a husband, when he's looking for a wife, you find a gossiping woman, you walk the other way. You do not want a woman who gossips, a woman who gets the latest news, a woman who's always, keeping up with the latest dramas. She's going to the houses and getting all the dramas. You don't want a woman like that. She's only going to bring trouble for you, right? And that also tells a lot about her personality. And you can just simply speaking to her, right? You spend half an hour speaking to her and she does not bring any mention of anybody. Like if you ask her about your family and she brings, oh, I have this cousin of mine. She's like this. And yeah, that aunt of mine, she's like this. She'll bring up these mentions of people, right? In a gossiping manner, in a slandering manner, you need to stand up and leave her because she's gonna bring a lot of trouble. Now back to the 5 characteristics. Number 1 is that a person has taqwa, right? He can have iman, he can be a Muslim, he can be practicing. If he does not have taqwa, if he does not fear Allah, that's a deal breaker for me. Okay. Number 2, and this one is very, very suspicious, very, very, what do you call it? What is the word? Special? Specific, that's the word. Specific. Very specific, this one is that he is knowledgeable, not only of Islam, but of the things that is going on in the world. Because as you will see from speaking to me, there's a lot of things that many people are ignorant to, and they kind of become sheep, where they're just following whatever the majority of the people are following, and they're not aware of what is going on. They can easily be controlled in that manner, right? By the people in their community, in their society, and on a large scale, they follow the trends. They follow what's popular, and what's popular is not always what's good. So I need somebody who is aware of the facade, of the corruption, of the deception. We are living in the fitna of Dajjal right now. The fitna of Dajjal has started. So a lot of things, there's a lot of deception. A lot of things are not as they seem to be. So for me, I would need a person who is conscious enough to be able to differentiate, because knowledge is power, knowledge is protection. You can protect yourself from the fitna. I mean, the fitna of Dajjal is going to enter every single household, right? But to an extent, you can protect yourself when you're knowledgeable, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is that he is muscular. A person, I do not want no better feminine man, far, far away from that. I need a person who wants to be the man of the house, I would give all the feminine energy that I have to nurture, to bring up my children, to comfort him, to be by his side, right? But a better feminine man, he needs to put in as much masculine energy as I put in the feminine energy. He needs to take the responsibility of the household, of the things that a man should take care of, right? And that's another thing. When you find a person who's not aware of the deception, they can easily be affected by the reverse movement of the feminist, which is red pill, or cultural practices. You can find a misogynistic man, because he's not knowledgeable, right? He will say, well, my culture is correct, right? And so I have to treat you I will treat you in a specific way because that's my culture. If you're not knowledgeable of the culture and you're not knowledgeable, you see, there's many men who they're knowledgeable about Islam. They're knowledgeable only about their rights. They don't know their wife's rights, right? They're knowledgeable about many things that is in their benefits. They don't know how to understand females themselves, right? And so they end up mistreating them. So that's why knowledge is not only, for me, knowledge about Islam, it's knowledge about many other things. Because I'm, alhamdulillah, I don't want to boast about myself, but I'm knowledgeable to an extent, right? And so I, inshallah, hopefully, and I'm still learning every day, will treat my husband, as per the knowledge and wisdom that Allah has given me, right? I am willing and I am going to, inshallah, try my best to do that, to help my husband and to give all of his rights that I know, because I'm knowledgeable of that. Once again, not boosting, but I expect the same from him, right? So he has to be knowledgeable, he has to be masculine, very important that he's masculine, that he takes up the responsibilities of the house. And I don't have, for me, physical appearance is like, I do want an attractive husband, but like I said, you can find a very handsome guy, but his personality is not, and his understanding and his knowledge is not that compatible with me. So I will take in the physical appearance, but that will come later. And lastly, that he's romantic. I think that's quite self-explanatory. And yeah, that's basically the 5 things that I will look for.
MashaAllah. Brother Ali, just to end, inshallah, as we're going now pushing an hour and a half, mashallah, 5 things that you looked or you would look or you would advise men to look in a woman. I don't know if your wife is there listening, so I'm not telling you what you'd be
my wife
looking
knows what I
to.
looked for when I found her, alhamdulillah. So
Okay, so what will be 5 things?
5 things. So when we talk about deen, we talk in very general terms. So I'll be very specific when I talk about deen. So as I said earlier, praying, fasting, all that stuff is a bare minimum. So what makes a wife unique for me that will stand out if I'm looking to get married for her, and what stood out for my wife? Sincerity. There's a lot of people, and why this is so important. If you don't have sincerity, when you find the truth, you'll still continue following your traditions and your nonsense that you're following before. So this is why we like converts so much. Converts, they give up everything because they were sincere when they found the truth. We have Muslims who know the truth right now, but no, I'm going to continue following my culture. I'm continue following this nonsense, even though the truth is in front of you, even though I give you the ayah, even though you gave me the ayah. And that's something that lacks with a lot of people, and I didn't want that in a wife, so sincerity was one of the main things. Second was character. Nothing weighs heavier on the scale on the day of judgment, not praying, not fasting, not even Hajj, than good character. You get the house in the highest part of Jannah with the best of character. So that is so important. How many hadiths do we know about the Prophet ﷺ talking about good character? Yet we have some people who look very religious, but they lack character. And it tells you that they have this knowledge, but that knowledge doesn't translate to character. And that means there's something deficient in their salah, something deficient in their knowledge, something deficient that because they have all these rituals that they're following, all these acts of ibadah, but that didn't translate into character. So there's something that's missing. So character was the second part. The third thing for me was femininity. Femininity, without that, forget it. It's not gonna work. I'm not marrying a brother. I'm gonna marry a wife. So that's what I want. So femininity is extremely important. Then, of course, attractiveness that comes after that. So femininity, attractiveness, they come hand in hand together, because you can't be attractive to the opposite gender, to a male, without being feminine. I don't care what brothers tell you. Yeah, I want your career. No, they want you to pay 50% of the check. That's what they want. So a real man who's masculine, the more masculine you are, the more feminine you want your wife to be, right? So masculinity attracts femininity and vice versa. And then finally, last but not least, it becomes all of the other pieces come together. And that is something that we as Muslims, not even the men, do very well. And me and my wife are very, very different views on different subjects. And me and my friends have very different views on different subjects. I have friends who are like hardcore Salafi. I know people who are Sufi. I know people who are very progressive, and I know people who are very conservative. And I can interact with all these people. The reason why is because I have the ability to agree to disagree. Not everyone is going to see eye to eye with you. Not every idea that you're carrying right now that you may even have carried 5 years ago. And you're different people on different paths of life. You may do all for them, but sometimes you need to be patient with those people, because all you have to do is hope these sincere people that you've surrounded yourself with, your wife, your friends, that in time, when they give them the truth, they will see the correct path as well. But you yourself, 5 years ago, weren't where you are today. You may have carried different ideas that you carry today. So we're constantly evolving and trying to become closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we want everyone to rush to the same speed we are, but you realize they're on a different track. So what happens is you have the ability to agree to disagree. Now, I'm not talking about like shirk and other things, but small things, like when your hand is here and the hand is here. Do you want to fight over every small thing that doesn't even disqualify your salah? No. Argue about the important things, not trying to get everyone to follow every single opinion that you follow, as long as they follow something that they understand as sincerely, that they know this is coming from Islam, and you may follow something slightly different. Just agree to disagree and then discuss bigger issues. Instead, we get caught up with these things like this, and then we completely forget the bigger issues. There's one short story about Imam Shafi'i. Abu Hanifa and Imam Shafi'i did not live at the same time. But when Imam Shafi'i went to one of Abu Hanifa's students, he traveled very far away. And they knew Imam Shafi'i does this during his salah. right? And the second rakat, fourth rakat. So they're waiting for the salah. They prayed and they watched him, and he didn't do this during the salah. And everyone knows that Shafi Madhab, they do this. And they asked him after salah, how come you didn't do that? He said, I didn't travel all this way to come and discuss with scholars to talk about this. We have bigger issues to discuss. And this is the mindset we Muslims should have, including when we discuss with our husbands and wives. We need to discuss the bigger issues because we have a lot of things that are attacking our Muslims right now. Everything from LGBTQ, everything from liberalism, and all this nonsense that are being pushed down our throats. And if we're too busy talking about this, we're not addressing the bigger issues, and it's going to sneak up on us. And then we're like, what happened to our kids? What happened to our friends? What happened to our wives and husbands? SubhanAllah. Just something to keep in mind, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Sister Wad, Brother Ali, great discussion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless both of you. I pray that we get to discuss again some of these pertinent issues that are very important for Ummah. And we are talking about marriage today. Check out Brother Ali's website, inshallah, which is going to be linked in the description. Bidnillah ta'ala. Sister Wad, thank you so much. Thank your mother there for the inspiration and the support.
She wants
Mashallah.
to say something.
Okay,
She
Bismillah.
wants to give a piece of advice.
Before you finish, I just want to advise the new generation about something very important. You know, I advise them just first to concentrate on dua. You must make dua always. Allah will bring you the good person, the good wife, or the good husband. Because at the end, and before you end this conversation, at the end, marriage is like a watermelon. You will never taste it unless if you cut it and open it. You open it when you are getting married already. That means it is a kind of what Allah brings for you. And then you must accept it, because that is why now we find this divorces and these issues. Because once you get in, you make dua. And once you get in, whatever you get that watermelon, whatever the taste, you must try to eat it. Because you are going to have kids, and you must see, because otherwise, if always we cut the watermelon and we didn't find it tasty, and we cut another one and we cut another one, then this is going to destroy the society, the Muslim society. That is why we must make dua. I advise them to make dua and to ask Allah always to bring for them the good husband or the good wife. Thank you very much. Shukran.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair, sister. Words of wisdom. Marriage is like watermelon, like batikh. You have to cut it, and then you get to see what's inside. Yeah, mashallah. That's beautiful. That is a beautiful analogy. Walillahi al-mathalul a'la, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakallah khair. Sister Wad, thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll see you again soon. Brother Ali, inshallah, it was a pleasure. We'll see you again. Thank you so much. Different opinions, different discussions. We're going to see what you brothers and sisters say in the comments and what is important to you, what questions you want to ask before you get married, and what's your opinion on what we discussed today. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone. MashaAllah.